Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné. First, the headlines. President Felix Tshisekedi will begin his second term on January 20th. We'll get the reactions after he was officially announced the winner of the last presidential elections by the DRC's top court. Tunisian radio presenter Zied El Heni gets 6 months probation after a day of protest in Tunis in support of detained journalists in a country. El Heni was arrested for allegedly insulting a government minister. And football fever is about to take on the continent. We'll take you to Senegal, the defending champion, where anticipation is building ahead of its first game. Felix Tshisekedi will begin his second 5-year term after a swearing-in ceremony due to take place on January 20th. He was officially announced the winner of the last presidential elections by the DRC's Constitutional Court. The incumbent president obtained more than 73% of the votes. Aurélie Bazara, Kibangula, and Met Livingston take a look back at how the elections unfolded.
The sounding of a bell marks this solemn moment. Constitutional Court judges, in an unsurprising move, have ratified provisional election results announced several days earlier. Felix Tshisekedi received more than 73% of the votes, placing him far ahead of rival presidential candidates. Opposition figure Moïse Katumbi came second, with 18% of votes. In third place came Martin Fayulu, who unsuccessfully ran for president in 2018. The next day, at the headquarters of Fayulu's party SUD, there are lots of unhappy faces. Well before the election results were ratified, Fayulu's party, like the rest of the Congolese opposition, disputed that Tshisekedi had won.
We expected nothing from this court because it's politicized. The logic is always to lend credibility to the results of the presidential election, results which come from electoral fraud. We must cancel these results.
The Constitutional Court annulled results in 2 voting districts in the west and north of the country because of fraud and corruption. But for the opposition, this isn't enough. The Congolese authorities say that while the elections weren't perfect, they were credible. President Tshisekedi's team has appealed to the other candidates to show a sense of fair play.
President Felix Tshisekedi's New Year's Eve speech was a speech calling on all to participate in Congolese political action. I believe that our comrades in the opposition will take up this call and that together we will continue to do what we are used to doing for the well-being of the Congolese people.
Felix Tshisekedi will begin his second 5-year term after a swearing-in ceremony due to take place on the 20th of January.
The United Nations says it remains concerned about the fate of personnel traveling on one of its helicopters in Somalia. A UN-contracted helicopter crash-landed in territory believed to be under the control of Al-Shabaab. Some passengers were reportedly taken hostage by the Islamist group. The chopper was carrying 9 passengers and crew with at least 1 Somali national, and the nationalities of the others on board have not been specified. And we've just learned the verdict regarding Tunisian radio presenter Zied El Heni. He has been sentenced to 6-month probation. Throughout the day, journalists had rallied outside the country's principal court in Tunis, where El Heni was on trial. He had been charged for insulting a government minister by using the term "katsi," which means good for nothing in Tunisian dialect. The main Tunisian journalists' union denounces an ongoing government campaign to muzzle the press.
This situation is especially concerning because the justice system's response seems overly harsh, considering why Zied El Heni is being prosecuted. On a morning radio show, he used a word that could be seen as negative towards a minister, but there was no insult, sexual implication, or hate involved.
It's truly astonishing and absurd that 13 years after the uprising, the justice system is still using laws from Ben Ali's dictatorship. Meanwhile, the Tunisian government officially promotes the values of that uprising, which include freedom, work, and dignity. What we're witnessing is a clear infringement on freedom of expression by the judicial system.
My father is being harassed because he wants to defend free speech and speak freely about what is happening politically in Tunisia.
The international community needs to take a decisive stance to push for a ceasefire in the Middle East. That's from a statement by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. He was meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in a Jordanian Red Sea city of Aqaba. Egypt's president also said aid to Palestinians in Gaza is not sufficient. Uganda is feeling the pressure of the ongoing influx of refugees on the environment, but local groups of refugees have recently decided to become part of the solution and launched a massive reforestation program in the Naki Valley area. Laurent Berstechel tells the story.
When Enoch Twagira Yesu first arrived in Uganda's Naki Valley refugee camp in 2003, he was struck by the area's natural beauty. But over the years, he witnessed the once blooming landscape slowly degrade amid intense deforestation.
When I came here, the entire area was a forest. But 7 years later, the forest had completely disappeared.
Naki Valley now hosts more than 180,000 refugees whose needs for fuel and construction materials are major drivers of deforestation. In 2013, the area experienced a severe drought, prompting local actors to take matters into their own hands. Driven by concern for the environment, Enoch and other refugees began replanting trees manually. Their efforts have since been backed by several NGOs, helping them set up a plant nursery and a basic training program.
We have refugees that we bring and train on how to grow seeds, to germinate seeds from mother bed to their beds up to the main gardens. So it acts as the knowledge transfer center in terms of environment.
And with over 450,000 trees replanted in the past 6 years, Enoch Twagira Yesu can begin to dream of one day restoring Naki Valley to its former glory.
And we're all excited. The African Cup of Nations kicks off in less than 3 days. 24 nations will battle it out to claim continental glory. Defending champion Senegal is among the favorites, but face stiff competition from the likes of Ivory Coast, Morocco, Algeria, and Egypt. Sam Bradpiece brings us more on the Senegalese capital, where anticipation is building ahead of Senegal's first game against local rivals, the Gambia.
Senegal are looking to win their second consecutive AFCON, having won the tournament for the first time back in 2021. According to recent analysis from the sports statistics firm Opta, they are the favourites going into this tournament, but only by a very narrow margin. Fans will be keen for the star player, the talismanic player, Sadio Mane, to remain fit throughout the duration of the tournament. He was injured in the run-up to the last World Cup, and many fans say that this is why the Senegalese national team didn't progress further in the tournament. Senegal's route to the knockout games looks relatively straightforward. In the group stages, they come up against the Gambia, Guinea, and Cameroon, all teams who they should, in theory, be able to beat. From the knockout stages onwards, though, anything could happen, but it's safe to say that at this point, expectations here in Senegal are very high.
So will Senegal be able to defend their title after winning it in 2021? We'll see that, because the hosts are also hopeful they can lift the trophy for a third time. And they're not alone. Football fever is about to take over the country for the next 4 weeks. James Fassina has more.
After a 6-month delay, it's now just days away. Pushed back because of weather concerns, the 34th Africa Cup of Nations kicks off this Saturday. Host nation Ivory Coast welcome Guinea-Bissau, and the Elephants and their supporters hope that a home advantage could help guide them to success.
With Ivory Coast, it's always this way. When we start to win games, our confidence grows. But in any case, we're positive about it. I'm confident the coach can get the job done.
This is a country full of joy. It's going to be a great Africa Cup of Nations.
Ivory Coast aren't alone, though. Defending champion Senegal will be back, hungry for more. The country's president has promised them a reward beyond their wildest dreams, if Aliou Cissé's team can add a second star to their shirt.
It isn't going to be easy and we know it, but anything is possible. We'll all be doing everything we can to retain the title. It's what our people are dreaming of here in Senegal.
And among the 24 teams taking part are their rivals from the last final. Egypt will once again be able to rely on Mohamed Salah's impressive form as the Premier League's joint top scorer so far this season. Just like the Pharaohs, Morocco will also be ready to put on a fight, especially after the Atlas Lions reached the semi-finals of the World Cup in Qatar, the biggest achievement ever by an African nation.
Well, you heard it. Sadio Mane says everything is possible. Now, to end this program, prominent South Africa photographer Peter Magan has been laid to rest in a state funeral. Magan died last week, aged 91. He had been a key figure in South Africa's liberation movement, covering the struggle against apartheid. Magan got arrested and spent more than a year in solitary confinement. Many paid tribute to the late activists, including President Cyril Ramaphosa.
At a time when an unjust regime acted with impunity and callous disregard for human life, Peter Magan's images exposed its lies. But despite all attempts to break his spirit and to take him away from his craft, he would not put his camera down.
Well, that's it for this edition. Thank you for watching Iron Africa. More news coming up on France 24.